Welcome back, everyone. As usual, we are two dudes talking 80s. I'm John. That's my partner in crime, Lewis.
What's up?
No, no, that was 90s.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
you can't be changing it up now. We're 100.
Hello is like what, 2024?
I think
That's
people have been saying hello longer than 2024. It's okay.
I try to mix it up and I get shot down.
You know what? We've done over 100 episodes. Everyone you said hello. We have to have some consistency. Okay? There
All
has to
right.
be, we have to, people hold on to this. They're like, oh my God, how is Lewis going to say hello this time and maybe hurt himself? It's something that people look forward to, you know?
Well, very good. I think I've got both bases covered now.
All right, cool. Well, we took a week off, but we're back. And, as usual, we're running out of ideas. So we're going to do what most people do and recycle an old one. And a while back, it seems like it's quite a while back. I'm sure everyone remembers this, like it was yesterday. We decided we talk about some of the forgotten 80s albums, right? Not the songs, but the albums. And it was so incredibly well received. We thought we'd do it again, right?
Due to popular demand.
Yeah, the public outcry was such that, the public wanted this. So we're giving the public what they want. All
That's what we're
right.
about.
Yeah, that's what we're about. We're pleasers. We're here to please. All right. It's kind of interesting because I actually went back and watched that episode mostly because I couldn't remember what the hell I had called out. And like I had called out like a lot of things that were popular at the time that for whatever reason didn't stay in the public eye like some of the 80s albums did. Don't ask me what you did. It was hard enough for me to remember what the hell I did. But some of the mentions I had on there were Martika. I think Night Ranger's Big Life got a mention. Geez, and now I can't remember what I did. I think May Living Color was on there.
Okay.
Um, Hitman, great album. And I forget the fifth. But and I don't remember what you did. Do you remember what you did?
I don't. And I'm so worried that I'm going to actually duplicate some of the ones that were on there. But yeah, I don't remember at all.
All right. Well, so like I said, a lot of mine were albums that were popular at the time. I'm doing the exact opposite of it now. I'm doing albums that I love every track on them, but probably most people have never heard. And I'm hoping that one or two people maybe goes, "Oh, that sounds interesting," and goes and checks out a song or two and maybe agrees with me, maybe doesn't. But hopefully introduce people to some new music that they haven't heard, which I listen to all the time because I haven't, progressed since '89. What was your take on this?
I did not go that route. I definitely went with albums that had some notoriety, at least at some level, and you never really hear about anymore. So that's sort of the route that I took. And they may not even be albums I necessarily like a lot. There's definitely going to be at least one track on there that I like. But like for the rest of the album to say, oh yeah, every track on this album is great. I did not go that route.
Well, I did. I have just ones that have stellar track records, but why don't you give me one of yours?
All right, all right.
Give
And
it to me,
again,
baby.
one more time. I know it's not 80s. I'm sorry. All right. So the first one I'm going to go with was a band that came out, and I might have called this one out in the other episode, and I apologize if I did. And they were first deemed as an absolute Led Zeppelin ripoff. Not Greta Van Fleet, because they definitely weren't in the 80s. These were the original Led Zeppelin ripoff guys, and I'm talking about Kingdom Come. So they were an American German rock band that formed in 1987. Have their debut album in '88, which included their hit "Get It On," and that again sounded super Zeppelin-y. The vocalist definitely patterned himself after Robert Plant. I do remember Lorenz actually playing that in I think it was his S10 or GMC, whatever it was, his car. And we listened to the whole album. The album is actually very good. I remember liking it, through and through, but definitely a big Zeppelin flavor to it.
Huge. Yeah, I remember the singer's name was Lenny Wolf.
Right.
And they came back a few years ago, um, did some performances and without Lenny. But yeah, I had the cassette back in the day. I liked it, but again, it was very much a Led Zeppelin ripoff. And it's kind of funny because you had Kingdom Come and Bonham was another one that, obviously Jason being the son of John, you kind of, it's a little more forgiving with the Led Zeppelin cloneness. But we definitely had kind of a Zeppelin resurgence in the later part of the 80s. But yeah, I had it. It was okay at the time, and I don't know what I ever did with it. I don't have any of my cassettes anymore, which is kind of sad because I think now some of them might be worth money. Who knew?
I still have some of mine. I was actually shocked to know that the album peaked at number 12 on the US Billboard Top 200. That sort of threw me back, because I thought it was something that definitely played through the rock community, but I didn't think that it had some sort of a pop notoriety. So, but it did.
It did, yeah. None of my albums probably charted in the U.S. and yeah, they didn't chart in the U.S. I brought visuals because I'm that kind of guy. It's
Nice.
hard to see. John Norum, his debut album, Total Control. This came out in 1987. Obviously, he left Europe and he put out the solo album, which is absolutely incredible. If you're a fan of hard rock, great guitar playing, great vocals, this is an amazing album with not a bum track on it. Um, he has two covers. The first one I had never, I actually, to be honest, I had never heard either of the originals. The first one is Vinnie Vincent Invasion's Back on the Streets, and the second one is Thin Lizzy's Wild One. And
Hmm.
both these versions are amazing. And maybe it's because I heard John Norm's version first, but I think his version of Back on the Streets just blows away the Vinnie Vincent Invasion one. But it's got a lot of great songs. It's got a cool instrumental on it. It's just an amazing album. And I remember George from the Record Exchange gave me the poster of this. I actually had this poster, the promotional poster, and a couple of years back, probably a lot longer than a couple, I actually paid for meet and greet with Europe and got to meet all the guys, but the only one who wasn't there was John Norum. I guess he had some issue with jet lag. He was resting before the show, and it was unfortunate because I still have that original promo poster. It's a little torn up, but I wanted him to sign it, and then I was going to frame it, and he wasn't there to sign it. And I even said to Joey, I said, "Oh man, I'm so bummed. I wanted him to sign this, the poster for Total Control." And he goes, "Oh, that would have been really cool, but wasn't to be." Um, you know, Great album. If you're a hard rock fan, if you like, Europe's early stuff, especially, like Wings of Tomorrow, Thin Lizzy type stuff, this is a great album. And nobody knows about it, but they should. And I'm probably gonna say that about every album we want to talk about.
I remember you playing that for me, and I want to say it was in your Mustang. And yeah, it was a cassette. And I really liking the cassette, the album, and it was always on my list to get it, and I never did. And I'll have to go and look for it and see if I can find it on CD now.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually, if and I, you still have the thing on here. I bought this in Greece.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was out. I think it was one of my earlier visits when I went and visited Steve in Greece, and we went record shopping, and I found this, and I'm like, oh God, because you're right, I only had the cassette, and of course I had to purchase it. The other thing I remember is playing it for a girl I was dating, Mary, um, and I remember we were just started dating or whatever, and she had brought up how much she loved she's like, oh, what happened, that song with the Thin Lizzy, that album with the Thin Lizzy cover. And she had to, she had gone back inside to get her coat, and I quickly grabbed the cassette and put it on right to Wild One. So right as the car went on, it would play Wild One and scored me some points. Just gonna say
Awesome.
that. Some points, baby.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I'm going to go on to my next one, and thanks for taking a little bit of the wind out of my sails, but going with Bart Bonham's Disregard for Timekeeping. So yes, another Led Zeppelin ripoff. Although if you listen to the whole CD or the whole album, it's not completely like that. Their hit, Wait for You was definitely very Zeppelin influenced, but they had some tunes that sound like the Police, and I just remember it being sort of a mishmash and not really having a lot of consistency throughout the album. But yeah, so that was released in 1989. That one peaked to the album at 38 on the US Billboard 200. And yeah, of course, John Bonham or Jason Bonham, John Bonham's son, was in the band, and it was pretty much his band.
I actually, believe it or not, I saw Bonham in
Oh yeah?
concert. Yeah, they opened for the Cult.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you're wondering why I went to see the Cult and Bonham, it's because our lead singer at the time had won tickets to go see them at the Cow Palace. I think it was the Cow Palace, and he asked me if I wanted to go, and I'm like, ah, sure, I'll go. You know me, I was like, all right, whatever. And so yeah, I saw the Cult and Bonham. I think it was the Cult was on the Sonic Temple tour, and Bonham was touring behind that album. So
Wow, man. No, that would have been a cool show. I would have been down with that. I like the
yeah,
Cult.
I don't remember too much. I mean, it wasn't like I was drunk or did drugs or anything. I just don't remember too much about it. It wasn't really that memorable of a show because I didn't really care for either band. I was just like, I'm going just because I'm going, and nothing really, came across and really captured my attention. Like for example, when I saw Cinderella, when I saw them and was absolutely blown away, and not really that big of a fan, but anyway, we'll move on. And sorry, I didn't mean to take any wind out of your sails. Um, this is a strange one. This one came out in 1986, and even the band doesn't like it, and they're wrong. And I'm talking about the second album from the band Abitor, The Only Safe Place. So their first album came out, was very thrash metal. This one wasn't that, but this is so freaking good. Like every song on here, I love. Um, you know, Night of the Knife. The Only Safe Place. Um, God, what are some of the other songs on here? Hammer of the Gods, Back to Hell, Temptations of the Flesh, Bring on the Damned. I mean, it's a perfect album. Like every song to me is a great song, and the band doesn't like it. Um, I've read articles. I mean, this is obviously they didn't come right out after the album was released and say, "Hey, we hate this thing." They
Right.
did break up after it, though. Mike Towers has a very unique voice. The singer has a very unique voice. Typically, not the type of voice that I like, but I love his vocals on here. And the same with he also was on Impact with the band Heretic on one of the Metal Massacres. And it's so funny because there's one of the groups I'm on in Facebook. Um, it's discusses like the LA metal scene or whatever. Somebody asked something about Heretic, and I'm like typing all of my knowledge, like, oh yeah, blah blah. And this guy writes after me. He goes, yeah, John's absolutely right. It turned out it was actually Mike Towers. I don't think that's his real name, um, Towers, but that was the guy. I said, "Hey, are you the one on the Abattoir album?" And he said, "Yeah." And I'm like, dude, I've always loved that album, and your vocals are fantastic. And you're great on the Heretic song. Um, I guess they felt like it, the rest of the band kind of felt like it didn't continue with the thrash, and the producers kind of, they did, it's like a little bit more slower paced. a lot of, the chanting, background vocals, like the group vocals. But God, I think it's so good, and I don't get it why they don't love this album, but it's fantastic, and I did see them play live many many years ago. I don't remember them playing anything from that album either, and
Hmm.
it's kind of disappointing. I've met also the lead guitarist Mark Caro one time. It was shortly we were still in high school. Me and my buddy that wrote Heavy Metal Onslaught. We're out in LA, and we ended up meeting up with Mark. And my buddy was like, "Oh yeah, my friend here taught me how to play Screams from the Grave," and he's like, "Oh, that's so cool." And so we were talking shop. Really cool guy, but yeah, they hate this album, and they're wrong. It's one of my favorites. It's excellent from beginning to end.
Interesting. I wonder why they hate it. I mean, I get that it sounds like it sort of veers a little bit from the genre that they did, and I suppose that the producers and the record companies have some influence over that. Maybe that's what it is. I'm just sort of trying to work through in my head why they would have created something that they weren't very happy with.
Yeah, and it wasn't like it was on a major label either. This was on Combat Records, so it wasn't like Combat Records was afraid to do thrash metal.
Right.
So I don't understand why they didn't do it. Who knows? Maybe
All
it's just
right.
one of those things, with looking, the hindsight, looking back on it, now in this day. But again, they did break up after this album, so who knows?
Interesting. Okay, good deal. I'll definitely go and see if I can find clips of that and listen to it.
I don't think it'd be your cup of tea, but give it a
No.
shot.
All right. All right. The next one that I've got's from a band that I really enjoyed. A lot of their stuff from the 70s, mainly in the 70s, but they had some good stuff also in the 80s. They came out with a song that peaked on the top 100 at number 60 called Street of Dreams. And they were a band that was formed by the guitar player, or the former guitar player of Deep Purple, which is Richie Blackmore. I'm talking about Rainbow, and I'm talking about the album called Bent Out of Shape. So again, it's a pretty solid album. I do like that one pretty much all the way through. It's got a couple of neat instrumentals on it, and Chilton Turner's vocals are just really really awesome. Very well produced, and it was released in 1983, and the album peaked at 34 on the U.S. Billboard Top 200.
Was that their last album?
I don't believe that it was, or was it? I mean, it might have been their last album because they broke up, then Deep Purple reformed, and they were together for a while, and then Deep Purple broke up, and then Richie Blackmore reformed Rainbow again. Um, but it might have been of the '80s. It might have been the last album, um, other than like Final Vinyl, which was like a
Yeah.
compilation of live stuff.
Is that doesn't have I Surrender on it? That's
Uh,
difficult to cure, right?
yeah, I think that's difficult to cure.
How about Can't Let You Go?
I'm not sure, John.
Okay, I was curious. I remember Street of Dreams, and I want to say it was like I just can't let you go or can't let you go. I remember the video, like it was kind of like in a haunted house or something like that. Do you remember that video?
No, not at all.
All right. Well, I guess I'm the only one that remembers that. But I'm surprised I remember anything in this day and age. So I'll take it. Yeah. If it's the one I'm thinking of, there are some really good tracks on there. Stone Cold, is that on there?
No, that one's either on difficult to cure or straight between the eyes. God, I had the discography up here and I just closed it out.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I actually broke out the CDs. That's how retro I am.
Nice, nice.
So the next one I want to bring up, you actually enjoyed this, which is kind of surprising because this isn't typically your genre. This came out in 1987, and I was first introduced to this band via a cassette single. Yes, they had cassette singles back in the day, and I'm talking about Heathen,
Nice.
Breaking the Silence. again, there's so much talk about the classic Bay Area thrash metal, and there's a lot of bands like Exodus, Metallica. If you want to include Megadeth in that, Testament, Death Angel. Heathen doesn't get a lot of love, and I've never understood why they didn't get the credit that they're due, because this is an amazing, amazing album. And again, every track is on there is great. Um, Probably my least favorite was the one that they did the video for, which was "Set Me Free," a cover of the old Sweet song. But what a great album this was! "Open the Grave," "Goblin's Blade." I think the cassette single had "Goblin's Blade" and "Set Me Free." And I remember you and I went and saw them. Did you only see them one time?
I think I only saw them once. Yeah.
No, no. I think no. You must have seen them twice.
Did they have Bailoff as a
We
front
saw
man?
him once with Bailoff, but
Okay,
didn't we see
maybe
him that other
twice.
time when I bought the shirt? Still have the Heathen shirt. When we went to the Omni and there was a fight right in front of the Omni and we went in for free. I think that was with David White or David Godfrey. I don't know what he's going on this album. He was David Godfrey on this album. Um, God, what a great album. It's heavy, it's thrashy, it's, memorable, so great guitar work. Really enjoy the vocals. They're a great live band. It's funny because I remember seeing them at the Stone one time, and Doug Piercy, one of the guitar players, at the end of their set, like knocked over his Marshall stack, or at least the cabinets. I don't know if the head was on top. I would hope he wouldn't have knocked over the amp head, maybe just a cabinet, and slid across the stage on the cabinet. And he hands me his guitar, and I grab the guitar, like he hands it right to me, and like the security's running over me, and it's like, I'm not leaving with this thing. Like, chill. Here you go. I'm not taking his guitar. Technically, he gave it to me, right? But what a great album. And I think they would have been more successful. Like, I don't feel like they knew what to do, because, like you said, they added Bailoff for a while because they thought David Godfrey or David White wasn't the right singer for them, which obviously he still sings for them today. So obviously he's the right guy. And I think they kind of took a step back, because if you go listen to some of the demos, like there's a demo with Paul Bailoff, and I love Bailoff with Exodus, but did not work with Heathen. And it just took them. They were also on Combat, and they tried to. I don't know if they tried to get off Combat or if Combat dropped them with the Bailoff stuff. Not sure how it happened, but they didn't get signed for years. And I don't think their next album came out into the early '90s. By then, it was already the start. Music was kind of changing. It was unfortunate, but this is a great album, and it should be mentioned when you talk about the Bay Area thrash, debut albums that are so phenomenal. And it's right up there with any of them in my book.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. I don't remember the album. I remember you playing it for me and me actually liking it, and I think that's the reason why that we went to go see Heathen together. I never was a fan of Bailoff with any band that he was in. So once he joined Heathen, it was a big turnoff for me. I really liked them with the lineup that we saw, and I thought the singer was really good. And I'm glad to hear that they're still out there and that he's back with the band.
Yeah, they've been out there for a while. It was crazy. I saw them. Obviously, I saw them in their heyday quite a bit, and they performed at the Thrash of the Titans years ago. I think 2000, 2001, and they've been going strong and still releasing new music. But a few years back, I saw them at the Whiskey A Go Go, and this had to be in the 2010s. Um, and it looked like a Bay Area thrash show. I mean, you had all these young kids. It's like, how the hell do you guys even know? They're all wearing the cut-off denim jackets with the leather, or denim jackets with the leather jackets underneath it, with all the patches. and the high tops with the tight jeans and the jeans tucked into the high tops and the hair, and I'm like, it was like Hot Tub Time Machine at the Whiskey A Go Go, and it was crazy. I figured it'd be a bunch of old farts like myself that could no longer fit into their original Heathen shirts and still would try. I don't try that. Um, don't mind if you do. I just can't do that. But yeah, it was crazy, and they still sounded great.
That's super cool. And it's super cool to hear that, the next generation is, at least some of them are into that. So that's pretty neat. The next band that I've got, I think they formed in 1985. They went through several different band names. They had The Edge, and they called themselves Sneak Preview before finally settling on the band that everybody knows them as. Actually, in 1985, so I think they formed earlier. Talking about King's X, and the album is called Gretchen Goes to Nebraska. So it's a pretty good album. I like King's X, and I think they're in general just a very underrated band. And they sort of came on into popularity just as the '80s scene was starting to veer into another direction, and you can hear that in their music. They're definitely more progressive and more complex than the normal hair metal band. So their album peaked. God, I must have had a typo in here at 123, maybe not. Their album peaked at 123 on the Billboard Top 200, and of course, the "Over My Head" was the sort of standout song that came from that. I was reading that one of the band members, I guess it was key in writing the song, said that they wrote the song sort of influenced, at least the song structure, to influenced by Lenny Kravitz's "Let Love Rule," which I thought was interesting. But yeah, so that's my pick.
I have really nothing to add because I don't know any. I remember the video, yeah, but I don't know anything about King's X. So I'm gonna just move on and not show my ignorance.
Good deal.
Um, the next band I'm gonna talk about is another one of those forgotten gems, and their first two albums are both classic, and then they blew it by trying to become Led Zeppelin on their third album. And I think, God, this one probably came from Greece also. Crimson Glory, their self titled album, which came out in 1986. Um, I remember hearing this and I was just absolutely blown away by it. The singer Midnight had some of the coolest screams I've ever heard put on, onto a recording. It was hard to choose between this one and their second album, which is Transcendence. But Transcendence used electronic drums, and the drums always kind of bug me.
Mhm.
It's one of those things that's like, this one is just amazing. Valhalla. If you listen to Mayday and hear the screams that he does on that, and then you listen to Lost Reflection, which is one of the coolest songs because it really sounds like Midnight, the singer, is going crazy. It's a really cool song with, very simple with the acoustic guitar for the most part, and that's it. And, just a lot of, droning behind it. But what a great band. Unfortunately, I never got to see them perform live. I was supposed to go see them. I actually drove to the Omni. It was them and Heir Apparent, and they were performing with our original drummer's new band. He had gotten together with some people and they were playing on a bill. So we went all the way to the Omni, get there, and find out Crimson Glory and Heir Apparent had canceled.
Oh,
So
bummer,
kind
man.
of sucked, but and sadly Midnight passed away. But if you're a fan of Queensryche, check out Crimson Glory.
I think I remember you playing that one song that you're telling me about where it sounds like that the singer is going crazy. It's got
Yeah,
sort of a creepy feel to it. And
it does.
yeah, yeah, it's any song, any music that sort of invokes that kind of feeling in a person, I always admire. I think that's almost magical. So very cool. Good pick. Although I don't remember any other songs on the album. All right, my last pick is from a gentleman that mainly worked in the country music genre as a producer. And he got to a point he's all like, you know what? I play guitar, I sing. I'm going to go out and make my own rock album. And the gentleman's name is Dan Huff. And he created this band called Giant, and the album's called Last of the Runaways. The album was again in the tail end of the 80s in 1989. The standout single was I'll See You in My Dreams, which peaked at number 20 and the Billboard Top 100. I was not able to see what the entire album actually charted. It's a good album. I remember there being two songs on there that I really enjoyed. Super well produced and really, really great guitar work. So yeah, if you haven't heard that, definitely give that a listen. It's just for the production. It's awesome.
No, I don't remember that one either, so I'm gonna move on. Um, Anytime you get a chance to talk about UFO, it's a good thing. And for a lot of people, UFO means Michael Schenker, which is great. And I love that era too. But I went to middle school with a guy named Bill Guthrie. And he was the one that introduced me to Maiden, to Judas Priest, Scorpions, and he introduced me to UFO. And he was a big fan of the 80s UFO with Paul Tonka Chapman on guitar. And of course, they had the Wild Willie and the Innocent, you know, um, Making Contact, and the one that I want to talk about, which is Mechanics, which always cracked me up because in the ads that they would use, it would be the album cover and it says Mechanics will tighten your nuts. But despite the really poor, innuendo to advertise, it was an amazing UFO album. There's a great ballad on there called Terry. I always wanted to date a girl named Terry just so I could play that ballad for her. Never got to. Dreaming. There's a song on there called Let It Rain. And I used to drive my parents nuts with it because they bought me headphones so I wouldn't, be cranking the music and bothering them. What was happening is I'd have those headphones on and I'd be singing along pretty loud, and my parents were like, "Oh my god!" And they swore that anytime I played "Let It Rain," it would rain. Like it was responsible for the weather. Um, and then so we went and saw them. I think it was at the San Francisco Civic. It was with Aldo Nova and Stranger. And
Nice.
I remember like the day before they announced UFO will be in, I forgot where it was, but they were going to do an in store signing. So this is my.
Oh, nice.
Unfortunately, Phil Mogg was not there that day. I don't know why he didn't show up, but I got to meet, Pete Way, Andy Parker, Neil Carter, and Paul Chapman, who all signed that. And what a great day. My buddy Bill, I had got him this shirt that's, when you used to go into the mall and you'd pay for the shirt and get iron-ons. So he
Sure,
got
teak.
it was like UFO fan in that like metallic lettering, the three-quarter sleeves on a like blue and white shirt. I had got him that, and so he wore that, and we met UFO, and then we went to the concert that night, and what an amazing concert! I remember buying a couple shirts. I even had the pen that had the similar to the album cover, this the wrench, and I had that pen for years. I probably lost it in the move here. But what a great album. Again, love every song off of it. UFO never gets the recognition they deserve, but I think 80s UFO gets even less. And that's just a great album. Phil Mogg, one of the absolute classic rock voices. You cannot go wrong with listening to anything that Phil Mogg sings.
Cool. Excellent, man. I'm not familiar with that album, so I don't have very much to say about that. But what an amazing day that must have been, man, to get meet all of them and get them to sign your stuff and then go and see them play later. That must have been awesome.
It was a great day. It was a great concert. I'll never forget the bands. before, my mother was like, "Oh, you're gonna go and you're gonna want to get all the albums." I said, "I already have all the UFO albums." And then the opening band, Stranger, put out one of the great albums. They could have been easily mentioned too, but they put on a great concert, and I went and got their album the next day. Aldo Nova, not so great. I never remember anybody getting as much shit thrown at them as Aldo Nova did that night. People had gotten the toilet paper out of the bathroom stalls and were throwing it at him. But UFO was amazing. Stranger was amazing. Meeting them was super cool, and that's a phenomenal, phenomenal album.
Good deal, man. Good deal.
So I think we're done. I think we
Ah,
wrapped this one up.
just in time
Mic
too.
drop, yeah. Anything you want to add before we bounce on this bad boy?
No, no, nothing to add. I think we covered a lot of ground and always fun.
All right. Well, as always, we appreciate you guys watching, and we're gonna go back and figure out if which one of these Lewis already had discussed the first time we did this. I don't think Kingdom Come may be questionable. I don't think so, though. I don't think so. I think you did good. I
All
think you
right.
did
All
all
right.
right. But hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't. We appreciate you guys watching as always. And please check out some of these picks that we mentioned today. And hopefully we introduce you to some really cool new tunes from the 80s, the only decade that really matters. Take us out, brother.
He's out.
Thank you guys.